generalize?
No, it's fine. Yeah. So, okay. So she got locked out of this iPad, and I was trying to figure out if she just like couldn't remember, if she had set up a password and couldn't remember it, because that's what it sounded like.
Okay.
And also, she told me that she'd been doing this at like 5 a.m. or something. And I was like, maybe not the best time to be doing this.
Well, if she's ever been on it, then she probably did. Yeah.
She's ever been on it?
Has she ever been on the iPad?
Like, she has an old iPad, but this was setting up a new one.
Setting up.
Yeah.
So she, to begin with, was locked out. Like, she never...
I think it might have been something because this is my guess, is that because it was secondhand, there was an old passcode that she couldn't get on.
Okay.
So anyway, it wasn't like all her fault, but when she was trying to describe it to me, I was like, so you just set up a password, promptly forgot it because it's 5 a.m, and now you're locked out. And so I was like trying to be like, where did you get this passcode? Like, did you write it down? What is happening? And then it was all about like, because if she was locked out of it, it was like, okay, how do we restart the iPad? Which I didn't know how to do. So I like Googled this, but I was like, just so you know, you can do exactly what I'm doing. You can find a video to like show you how to reset an iPad. And she got very, very angry.
At the suggestion?
At like the whole situation.
Oh, I'm sure.
The whole situation.
I'm sure.
And it was just like, fuck technology. And I was like, it's not technology's fault. Like that's a feature that's designed to protect you. Actually, it's good that
could
exists.
Be interpreted as technology's fault if you're like, technology should be advanced enough to know that I just bought this. So
yeah, that's
why
true.
are you failing? So we are failing at that, at already knowing. You know,
it was very Zen in the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. Actually,
haven't read that.
Yeah,
seems really boring.
It kind of is, but he like goes on at length about people who mistrust technology and like mistrust. He's traveling with his son and like this other couple, and so they're all riding motorcycles, and he has this specific relationship with his motorcycle, and like he just understands it and like is interested in it and always like tweaking it, and he makes it like it's very user friendly to him, I guess, because he just has this relationship with it. Yeah, thanks, Siri. And then this other couple.
She was like, user-friendly, I'm user-friendly.
I know, seriously, she's like, use me. This other couple hates the motorcycle, like doesn't understand it. They're always like, no, anything is wrong with it. They take it to the mechanic, and he can't understand that viewpoint. He's like, what is like up with these people who are afraid of machines, essentially? And then goes into a long analytical deconstruction of what's happening there.
Is that like a species?
What do you mean?
Like people who are afraid of machines? Is that a thing?
From his viewpoint, yes. And it's like a separation that people like view machines as being different than human. That's what they don't like about it. They see it as being very like scientific and kind of cold. And his argument is actually that like a machine is nothing without human interaction. And the motorcycle is kind of a perfect example. And actually like instruments are a really good example of this. Like even like electrical instruments, your interaction with it changes the machine itself. And so like no two motorcycles like ride the same, you know?
Right.
Anyway, probably not a book you're ever going to read.
It just sounds like a musing that one might have while gardening.
What?
Like it sounds like something that I don't know.
Just think so.
Yeah, I just feel like it's not book worthy. Or maybe I'm just being a dick.
Not book.
And just like taking on a stance.
That's not what the whole book is about. It's very confusing. I felt like I was using my head more in that book than I have have in a long time.
Really?
Yeah. Because I like really wanted to understand what he was saying. And it's very philosophical and like, but also not scientific, but like methodical. And then it also is like this.
That sounds like it would be easy to understand because it's not chaotic, but that's an assumption that I'm making, that the less chaos there is, the easier something is to understand. And maybe that's not true.
It felt like physics to me. Like the feeling I had when I was trying to understand physics, it felt like that. Trying to hold these concepts in your head while at the same time there's like a physical application to them and you're like, but how did they go? I don't understand what's happening.
I was not very good at physics. No. At all.
Yeah.
I think I was quite bad at physics.
Yes.
Chemistry is just dumb.
Why is it dumb?
I don't know. It feels so fucking useless. I remember being like, I don't know. It felt like the least practical. I realize it's practical, okay?
Yeah.
So everybody calm down.
But it felt like the least practical, okay?
Yeah. I can't tell you one thing I retained from that, except 3 things, and all of the ways in which they play a role in my day-to-day life. It's all in analogy. It's never in chemistry.
Okay.
Like titration. I remember that.
Shoot. I don't.
I remember saturation point. The concepts that I remember, the way that I utilize them in my life, has nothing to do with chemistry. It's purely metaphorical.
Oh.
And so whatever use it is, it's like been repurposed. It's like reclaimed. It's like reclaimed wood. It's like a reclaimed information. That's all I got from chemistry. And that there's a table. And that the only
That's usually what people remember.
elements that exist are sulfur, mercury, salt.
Was there another? Sulfur, mercury, salt. I think it was something stupid.
Fuck.
Like myrrh or something.
I'm getting a little bit my War and Peace mixed up with my chemistry, but
It happens all the time.
it happens more than I would think. I never realized that War and Peace was going to take any sort of stance on chemistry.
Me neither. I did not expect that off branch.
Yeah. It's come up more than once, which seems like a lot. Right?
I know. Do you think Tolstoy like knew? Wait, was he a Freemason, or did he extensively know about the Freemasons, or did he research that?
I don't know. I don't know is the answer to that question.
Good answer.
No.
Very Russian of you.
I was talking today about Russian philosophy with my parents.
Mm-hmm.
It was quite funny. Because Russian philosophy is quite funny. Philosophical culture. So the culture isn't funny. And the philosophy isn't funny, but there's something about the cultural. Oh, my brain's too tired.
I actually think your metaphorical application of chemistry is great and more than I've done.
But you're not like screaming from the rooftops how useless chemistry is.
No, because it's obviously useful.
To whom?
To chemists, to industry.
Everything
to
is
creating anything.
I mean,
like cooking.
Janessa from yesterday would have known what I was talking about.
That's true. Where is she?
God damn it.
Where she's like, I have no interest in hearing from the dead.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah, what's up with chemistry? Big crowd tonight.
I don't know what that means.
I don't know either. Cool. There's a big crowd. Everyone's gathering around the warm glow of the laptop.
Yes, of course, it's important to chemists.
But I also mean, it helps us to understand what's actually happening. So
But
we're not just like,
did it help you
why
understand?
are there bubbles in the water?
But did it help you understand? Bubbles, I don't think that's not, I think that's physics, by the way.
No, shoot, this is like why it's confusing because they separate them and they go together, and that is confusing.
I don't know how much they go together.
That's physics?
Well, like
That's not
why bubbles
chemistry?
exist in water?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not chemistry.
It must be chemistry when you're like, that's all I remember of chemistry. It's like there are solids, there are liquids, there is gas.
Yes.
That's chemistry, right?
Sure. Yeah.
I can see how it would be physics too. What is physics?
Physics is much more knowable and concrete.
I think of it as
It's properties of the physical world.
Even when I think about gravity, I'm like,
What does
what
that
are we
even mean?
talking about?
What do you mean? This is now about, I mean, not a podcast. It's not a podcast at all. This is now we're on one of my favorite like tracks, which is we don't know shit about shit. And that it just unfolds like an ever-giving,
So perfect.
bountiful flower. Here's more shit we don't know anything about.
Yeah. So perfect and fitting.
Why?
I know, because it's so Russian of us.
Oh,
Yes. Full circle.
so Russian.
Wait. I wanted to say something. No, yeah, okay. Physics is like the obvious, but then they convolute it, or they don't convolute it, but they complicate it by introducing all these laws, and then you're like, what? What is actually happening when an apple falls to the ground? I don't understand anymore.
You don't?
Because like it seems pretty obvious that like yeah, it falls to the ground, but then they're like, no, but the velocity of the does this, and then
You
there's
can't
like
use
this power and this power working together, and the outcome is this.
You can't use words like da da da
Da, da, da.
in this
It might as well be
conversation.
that. Okay.
Because this is one of the few things that I actually feel like I do understand. Apples falling from trees.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, I'm not about to explain it. But what's the confusion though? Because this is how I feel about chemistry. Like I have no idea what anyone's talking about at any time.
Like, okay, for instance, what is leverage?
What is leverage?
Yeah, like what is happening? When it talks about like energy and force, what is force? I forget this, but I know there's an equation for like force equals, oh my God.
Maybe I don't remember anything either. I don't know. I'm not lost and bewildered by physics.
Really?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Just comparatively less so.
I think it's like the combination of these very conceptual things.
You know that
Yeah,
in
the-
physics, in my school, the physics was split into two classes. One was physics for the normal people, and the second was for the dongles. That's the one I was in, and it was called conceptual physics. Sorry, you were saying.
Okay, because what I see the problem being with physics is like you have these concepts and these equations, and then you have like the real world, and it's very confusing to put math to real world. Like I could just never like lay those two on top of
You should have been in
one
conceptual
another. I
physics.
definitely should have.
Yeah.
Because if we just stayed in concepts, I'd be like, great, cool. Just give me numbers, give me equations. I can like let's do
Not
this.
give you numbers.
There's numbers to it. Yeah, if you're talking about like speeds or like
Yeah,
that's
there
just
was.
it. There's like
numbers.
velocity. For some reason, I remember velocity being very important. What is all this? This happens, so that happens. That's physics. That I'm pretty sure that's not the accurate. This turns into that. That's chemistry. Okay, this turns into that is also physics, isn't it?
Could be, yeah.
Right?
Could be.
Yes.
Because matter and energy, like they can't be created or destroyed, but they can convert.
You know what I think would be funny? In the same way that I was saying that like a great
What's the no to?
conceptual conceptual. I don't know. He says no.
What no?
Wait, no to what?
No, what?
No, that physics is not like this turns into that.
It can be.
Yeah. Right?
Like
Light-
energy and, what do you call it?
Exactly. That light is both a wave and a particle. I know that. That sounds like it changes
I don't know if that's
depending
changing,
on what it
but
is. That's not chemistry. We're not talking chemistry with that.
That's correct. We are not talking chemistry. We're certainly not.
You know what'd be funny? If it's the same way that like you describe a movie that you don't know very well, but you kind of try to like guess out what it is.
That's like my whole life. That's how I interact with everything. Someone's very chatty tonight.
Yeah. Bootsy, not gonna lie, I feel chemistry. See?
Okay, see? What even is chemistry?
What is chemistry?
And I think I don't have the like capacity for abstract thought that is necessary for actually going any further than very preliminary understanding of particles of like I get the electron thing, but like just very only extremely basically.
Yeah, do I get electrons? Electrons are negative, right?
Maybe we shouldn't talk about
No,
this.
you have like a proton and a neutron.
Yeah,
I feel like electrons are negative.
correct.
I remember that. That's great.
Yeah.
And they're going around. I forget why. Like, why have an electron? What do we need that for?
See, this is what I'm saying. I don't think there's why in chemistry. I remember there being an absence of why.
Yeah.
Any study that just that gives you just like, I don't know if this is, I like it when I don't know if what I'm about to say is true. Any study where you have to accept like a bunch of basic, like a basic framework and just take it as stipulated for everything else, I'm immediately like, what? Like one of the reasons I think that I suck at math, one of the, maybe not the reason, but one of them is because somebody was like, here, you need to learn these times tables. And I was like, what am I even looking at? And the fact, like, maybe that just means that I had a shitty math teacher, and so the logic, which I mean, is obviously there, didn't make itself known. But I felt like I had to just sort of memorize these things as being, this is one of the reasons I suck at music too. Like, understanding it more doesn't help. You just have to learn it.
Yeah.
And that part, I can't make myself.
Because you just don't like being told what to do, or like you have to pull the thing apart. Like that's how you learn.
I think it's because I have to pull the thing apart. So if I can't pull something apart, I don't know how to engage effectively. Like, I've never been able to actually learn my fucking multiplication table. I know some, but only some of them.
I was trying to learn the Japanese way of doing multiplication.
What is that?
But it was so much smarter.
better.
It was so much smarter than the way Americans do it, or like North America or the Western.
Isn't that what Kumon is?
Is it?
Maybe not the Japanese methodology, but I remember it being like a fundamentally different conceptual way to interact with math, as being more about amounts, like spatial, like it's more spatial.
Yeah.
And less the thing that I can't do, which is just like, remember that 3 comes after 4,
Totally.
which it doesn't.
Multiplication, at least when I learned it, was all just like, remember this.
Right.
Just drill
Yes,
it, drill it, so it's there.
And that I don't know how to do. Like, that's not how I learn lines either.
Yeah, so like their method is more like, it's more like an abacus.
Yes.
Yeah.
which I think I would have been much better at math if that's the way that I was always approaching it, if that's the way I was oriented, like when multiplication was the thing that we were like working on or whatever. I mean, I still might suck, but I think I would have had a better shot at it because, and that chemistry feels like that to me, where it's like, this just is so. There's an electron. There's no Y. And then there is a proton because.
Yeah. And the thing about that kind of learning is it actually like cripples you in the end because you don't know how you got to there.
Correct.
So it's like you don't know how to come up with answers yourself. You're just like, okay, there's this thing. I have no idea why.
Yeah.
And it means that if ever I get lost, I'm kind of screwed. Because I don't even know what we're talking about anyway. I don't know what land we're in. I don't know like how we got here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I think of numbers as being that spatial. And that might be that's like part of the problem. Because the times that I do, I'm more like, okay, I somehow the concepts sit better. When I can like picture them rather than, I don't know, it's a hard thing to talk about, like to put your finger on. Did somebody drink a large quantity of coffee?
A large quantity? Wait, what? You're like, what's this? So tiny.
I can't read anything
for the masses. I don't know. He's doing a lot of hashtags. Hashtag magic.
What's magic?
Science is magic.
Yeah, I guess I don't know if it has anything to do with having an issue with authority, but I guess I don't like not understanding things.
I think the learning model of just like memorize this is bankrupt and we need to put it to bed.
I think it probably has a space. Like, I think at least when I was a kid in India, the schooling system at the elementary level was a little bit more like that. And I think it gives you, in theory, it didn't always work for me, clearly. Case in point, math, like multiplication.
Yeah.
But you learn more stuff by rote. At least that's how it used to be. And in the US, I don't know about Canada, but like the general cultural paradigm was different in education, where it was a bit more focused on how you got there.
Oh.
And teaching you to do the thinking, to do the steps, rather than inform you what the steps were. And make sure you remember them.
I think it varies from
Probably.
Like province to province or state to state or school to school.
Oh, in Canada, you mean?
Yeah. So we didn't have that. But that might have been a Quebec public school, you know?
Mm.
And even English versus French. There was a whole other thing for me too, because I went to a French elementary school and French does mathematics a specific way.
What?
Yeah. Like, it's not that different, but they do it differently. There's just, like, things in different places.
Isn't math supposed to be, like, a universal language? What do you mean they do math differently?
They just put their own flair on it. Like, I know, and it's just very important that things are where they are. When you're dealing with numbers, it's important, okay? Because especially when you're a child, it's confusing if suddenly you don't know what you're dealing with. And I just remember specifically, I'm sure there's other things, but like in division, and I don't know how to do division now. I have the same thing around dates, by the way, because like French does dates. It's written out a specific way. And now I most of the time write dates like that, and then people make fun of me.
How is it written out?
It's just something different. It's like le 14 février 2019 or something.
So?
And then it's like, so it's like the number comes first.
But that's like the rest of the world.
I guess so. But then it always just makes me confused about how to write a date. Because I'm like holding both at the same time. I'm not like consistent.
Oh, I just switched. Like driving on the other side of the road.
Yeah, okay. So like in French, divisions, right. Okay. Do you do division with the line goes up across?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so French, the line is below.
Below what?
I don't remember.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
I forget what goes in that little box.
What box?
Well, it's like a little box, right? Because you're like dividing like 144. I'm just doing a really basic one. And then you go
I'm not
like
gonna know
this,
if it's
right?
basic or not.
Like, okay.
Yes.
I hope you all
Yes.
could follow this. You go 144.
So it's a little bit like it's a
12,
denominator.
And then you put the numbers above the box, right?
You enter the numbers above the box as you're getting them.
And then your answer is above.
Correct.
I feel like French does it the opposite.
That's very confusing.
I know. Maybe it's not that. Maybe it's like not that significant. Maybe it's just where the box is. But anyway, I remember as a child being like, "What's happening?" And now to this day, I'm always like,
someone picks up and it's a spammer.
He is. Yeah. Anyway,
how's a person supposed to succeed in life?
how? So difficult. I actually do feel like I, in many ways, might as well not have gone to elementary school for the amount that it just confused me.
I feel that way about a lot of things,
Yeah.
like studying music. You realize I studied music kind of a lot.
You did?
Yeah, like I took piano for years. I did the Trinity College of Music exams
Whoa.
every
okay.
year.
Okay.
I don't know why that was necessary, but I have like nothing to show for it. You know, I might have, your thing of like, oh, I don't get it. I don't have the it. I keep expecting with music, and I did this. This is how I ended up with a minor in music. Is in college, I was like, right, I'm going to get this music thing. I'm now an adult. I have a new brain.
Yeah.
I'm not with my like fourth grade piano teacher, I don't know. It was years. So maybe I can start over and just start from like nothing. First of all, I don't think that's possible, really, starting from nothing if you know things. But I started to take theory classes and was like, I couldn't, I don't know what I know. And it was really easy for Laura. So I can never tell if actually I do get it to whatever extent it's gettable, and I just don't feel like I have the secret ingredient. Like, oh, I still don't get it. Like you're that thing. Or if my brain is just like not good at things that are like this math, because to me they're so fucking similar.
I'm so curious about the like not getting it, because more and more I just think it's not that like you don't get it, it's that you're like missing pieces that would connect dots for you.
That's what I think of when I mean not getting it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Sometimes I just think of it like really fatalistically, like you said, my brain is not good at this, which I guess I take to like the umpteenth, I don't know, whatever, a very large degree. Like,
is that like to the
it's not built for it. Like whatever I am designed to be will never has no access for this.
But maybe that's also true. That's kind of what I mean by music theory. Like I came at it a couple of different ways, and that's not a million ways. It's only a couple. But like when I was in class, like I'd have my fucking homework at home, and I lived with Laura, and she would like explain stuff to me, and I would still like I couldn't accept that like the circle of fifths, you just had to accept that it was like E and then EA and then EAD, EADG. Like if I'm just taking something rote, I'm pretty sure I don't understand it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if actually like I know everything that everybody else knows, I just don't feel like I know anything.
Yeah.
Or if I am missing it, like clicking into place in a way that it looks from the outside like it does with people who are like skilled at it, like Laura. It's not doing that in my head.
Yeah. I think maybe it's a combination. I think for some people, like they're able to just be like, this is what it is. Like, and they don't question it, so it feels much more solid for them. So then they're like able to add on to that. And I think it's also the other thing of like there's something missing in the picture for you where like it doesn't make sense that it would be that. So with that left like unattended to or unexplained, you're like, what language is this?
I'm trying to think if I have ever learned anything by rote, ever. Or what rote even is. Because in order to remember anything, like memory is so strange. In order to remember anything, don't you have to like house it in some type of context? How does memory work? Does anybody fucking know this? Because one of the reasons that I don't feel like I memorize lines is because the only way for me to remember them is to really do like understanding work.
Right.
That's the only way that I retain them. So it's not the same as just remembering. I don't know.
I know that this is all I know. That the more the more senses you can put into the equation for memorizing, the more it sticks. So if you can like visualize it and hear it and smell it, like the more it's like it's real in a way, the more it's just there for you.
I don't know. Because music is one of the things that I can engage the most senses in. It's still extremely opaque to me. Dense.
I want someone to answer this question.
Which,
I want someone to like answer the question of learning and figure out the absolute best way to learn something so that the rest of us can stop like mucking around in the dark and feeling bad for not being able to get things.
I think there's probably not a single way to learn.
Yeah, probably like humans are pretty similar. And
no, I mean it depends on what you're learning. Not on the post.
You think so?
Yeah.
Because these all sound like very similar. Like it kind of sounds like you could get music. If there was like a method to getting music, you could get chemistry too.
But there is a method to getting music.
What do you mean?
Like it's called going to class. It's called learning it, which is what I did, but I still didn't get it.
That's what I mean.
But it works for other people because other people know how to read music.
Work for you. It's not just like learn how to read music.
What do you mean it's not just learn how to read music?
That's not the only thing that's missing. I don't think that would add anything for you.
I'm confused about where we are in this conversation.
Wait, you know how to read music, right?
Technically.
Okay. I'm saying you're not the only one who doesn't understand theory.
Mm-hmm. That's accurate.
Yeah. So I'm saying they haven't solved how to teach theory to everyone.
I don't know if that's true. Because maybe they've taught it to everyone who's capable of understanding it.
That's what I'm talking about, though. I don't think there are like people who are incapable of learning theory when it comes to music. I just think there's something missing in teaching it that could like. So I'm saying instead of like making all the people who don't get it wrong, Maybe there's a different method of teaching it that needs to be developed.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe this is like a prehistoric thing to say, but like all we've done as a species is pass down information to each other.
Mhm.
So I guess I have like a skepticism about I have a skepticism about there being like all these better ways to do something that we've been on some level trying to do for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years.
Mhm.
So I don't think we haven't figured out teaching or haven't figured out a way to learn.
That.
That we haven't figured out a way to learn?
I don't know if you ever figure it out.
I don't either.
Like, I think it can always be improved. Definitely, like, we have a method that works for many people.
But do we have one method?
No, I'm sure we have, like, many others, but I'm, like, actually more interested in, like, something very broad, which is, like, what we're talking about, which is how does one learn something or memorize something? And, like, to really understand that, like, really, really maybe even, like, on a neurological level, and then from that place, like, have it be almost foolproof. That would be amazing.
But what if it can never be foolproof?
I
Because
don't
there
know,
are
but
people
I think
who,
it's a worthy goal.
there's people whose goal that is.
Yeah,
There are people doing it.
yeah.
Like we're not the first people to think about this.
We're not.
We're not. There are neuroscientists that like there's people who write papers about learning and stuff. So I mean I think like to whatever extent the like science has been um, integrated into our like public school system, like there starts to be like 75 other
Mhm.
things that are part of that. So I mean, are we basing this on what we know as a species or what is taught in public schools? Because those are two wildly different things. It sounded like you were saying, I want someone to figure out the best way to learn something, as if no one's doing that.
I want someone, instead of like having it be kind of like this mysterious, like, I don't know why it doesn't work for me. I want someone to be able to like identify it exactly what is missing. What?
It's funny because it's a little bit like saying, I want somebody to solve what happens after death. Like everybody's trying, I think.
Yeah.
But it might be it might be unknowable. And I'm not saying that how to learn is unknowable. I just mean that like the reason it's complicated is because it's actually complicated. The reason we haven't figured out consciousness is not because like no one's bothered to do it.
Okay. I think this is actually like more, it's not more necessary, but it's maybe, how to put this? The implications of this and why
Yeah.
I'm interested in this is because then it takes away the potential shame around like if a kid is stupid in school. Because it's not that anything's wrong with their brain, that they don't get it. It's that like the learning hasn't become sophisticated enough to be able to translate for that particular person what this information is.
I guess I feel like that's like there's many different things operating there. And there are numerous ways to address that problem. That aren't yeah, there's many ways to address that problem if that's the issue. If the issue is like shame and the isolation of people experience like
Sure, there's many ways to address that. I'm suggesting this way.
right, but what if it's not do what if
Yeah, I don't know if it is.
because people do like sit around studying this and writing theses and reading books and like it's like dreams. everybody's got like ideas. So we know some things about it and we don't know a lot of things. But the way you're talking about it makes it seem so knowable and finite. And like there's one thing. Like if we figure out the way to teach or the way to learn, then everybody's going to be able to do it. And it's going to be an equalizing force. And I don't know if that's realistic.
Okay. I wasn't saying that everyone learns the same, but I guess more what I was saying was like, particularly in reference to you, what if there was like, oh, music theory doesn't make sense for you because you don't understand this other thing.
Mhm.
Like, and there was a way to identify it. Like, there was a way to identify what you don't understand that isn't having the things link up
There probably
the
is
way
a way.
that they do for other people. And there's like a way to identify that.
There probably is.
There probably like already is a system for that.
Yeah, I don't think it would be that hard if you had people who were proficient in sort of like the connected disciplines of music, of math, of stuff like this. You could sort of like almost like an allergy doctor. I think you could probably like test your way into isolating core concepts that are not coming through. Yes, that would be wonderful, but that might not be the reality. Like it might actually be that I can't understand it. Or it might actually be like, maybe it's not true that everyone can understand everything.
Okay. Sure. But I still think it's a worthy pursuit.
I don't know.
And I think that argument of like, maybe not everyone can understand anything, like, okay, then it kind of stops there.
It doesn't though, because people are working on learning.
Okay.
It doesn't stop.
Okay. All right.
I'm not sure.
Like maybe we're in agreement then.
Maybe.
Yeah, because I'm not saying that that's not possible. That's entirely possible.
That which
I
is
just
not
get
possible.
excited that maybe not everyone can learn everything. It's entirely possible.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really exciting to think about. I don't know, I just got excited about like, oh, what if you could like, what if instead of living in this world where it's like, I just don't get it. And like, I just have to deal with my life never understanding this thing. Because my brain doesn't work that way. Like I think it's exciting to think that like maybe there could be a more sophisticated way to like assess what is in the way, and so that you could do it if you have the desire to.
And arguably, if you have the ability to. Because the other thing to do is to, in those situations, is to work on the shame and to be like, it's okay if I don't, it's okay to not know something, or it's okay not to understand something. Like I don't know that my life is less rich because I don't understand music theory.
Yeah,
or that I think.
and I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying that has anything to do with it. Like this is like a purely like this kind of has emotions to the side. This conversation that I'm having over here.
I thought you said that shame was a huge part of it.
No, I wasn't saying shame was a huge part of it. I meant that one of the implications I see with that is that like no longer would be like these children are stupid, these children are smart. So that was like an exciting aspect of it for me. Because then it equalizes everything.
Yeah. Assuming all things are equal. Which one knows? I think it's like one of the more complicated questions that we like interface with. Because it's true that not everybody is Einstein.
Yeah.
So
Can I like equalizes in that no one is resigned entirely to their fate.
but that's assuming the resignation is negative. Because it could also be acceptance.
Sure, that's one way to do it.
Yeah.
Sure, but I kind of think that sucks.
Why? It only sucks if you believe it sucks.
What if you want to learn German and someone's like, you're never going to learn German. You have to learn how to be happy never learning German.
Then that person's a dongle and you continue to study German.
Okay. So, yeah. But do you see how that isn't like some like big like lesson you need to like overcome because like you're caught up in some like thinking that like it's not necessarily that you're like chasing some like stupid pursuit and you have to accept yourself for not being capable of learning German.
No, of course not.
Okay. What are you saying?
I'm saying that of all the ways to address this aspect of the human condition, us making the assumption that there is an undiscovered methodology to teaching is like a highly simplified and it being like simplified is the roughest thing I think about it. It's like the least likely solution. Because it assumes that there is an X, like it assumes that there is a way of teaching that we haven't figured out that would be an equalizer in learning. And I don't know, like that's a pretty tall, that's a bold claim.
Okay.
It's not like, and that is like an underpinning assumption of this idea of like, here's a way to solve it. That's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know that solution exists.
Mm-hmm.
In the unknown or in the, like even in the unknown.
Okay, so you're saying that like the variables of human to human, like everyone is so vastly different. First of all, there's probably a few things. So everyone is so vastly different that you can't create like one solution. It's not like, it's like one size does not fit all. And actually like one size almost like never fits two. Everyone learns differently. Everyone has their own things. And some people are born with certain presets and they're going to understand things and they're not going to understand other things. And that's fine. And that is not like their destiny, but it's kind of like, yeah, you are who you are.
That there's aspects of those things, yes.
Yeah. And also that learning in itself is so complicated and so many variables are like involved in like actually like what happens when someone learns something, that is in its own way like kind of like untenable, and that can never be fully gotten either.
Yeah, that it's like it's like hundreds of things feeding into how, yes, that is what I'm saying.
Okay.
And I think our best guess as to one size fits all is probably the way that,
what is this?
Yeah, like that's what we've figured out to do. So obviously that's what we figured out to do. You know what I mean? Like this is the manifestation of that intention of let's figure out the best way to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And to whatever extent you are able to integrate it into a public school system and make that effective is a different question about like governing and appropriating funds and all these other, and having the right teacher, like 700 other things enter the picture. So I'm not saying that every public school exemplifies the most of what we know about learning. But this is our like best effort. This is the result of our best effort.
Yeah.
At the moment.
Okay.
And I guess, and maybe this is because I come from a place of like, my sister's a therapist and stuff. Like I think that dealing with the interpersonal dynamic that happens when somebody says, you suck at German, you will never learn German, is a much quicker and more malleable, because you can shape shift it. There are tools you can shape shift depending on the situation, depending on the German, and depending on the person saying it to you, and depending on all of the variables. That's like this is just my 2 cents, of course, but
so like that is more malleable, more like controllable in a way, your experience with that, as opposed to trying to force your brain into a shoe that does not fit.
And it might have the added benefit of sliding your foot into the shoe.
Right.
Because maybe if you can remove the noise and the like thought clouds and the judgment and the shame and these ideas of what it means to be called like, if you're able to, like shift those out of the way, or like push them into the background rather than the foreground, you might find that it actually is much more accessible to you, the content. I mean, I'm sure that's true.
Yeah, I'm sure that's an aspect to it, definitely.
You can't learn, right? When
actually,
you're like,
that just makes me think that like, whatever. Yeah, I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, it's fine. You can't. Supposedly, you can't learn when you are.
Yeah.
This, so it would stand to reason that the less horse shit you have in the way that you're wading through and trying to negotiate like beliefs about your intelligence and whether or not girls are good at science and all of these other things.
Yeah.
May actually smooth your way to being.
That's probably true.
Able to understand.
For some reason, like I thought of like, if you were to eat a meal and someone would be like, why aren't you eating? Did you eat it? Did you digest it? Are you digesting it? And like was gonna quiz you on it afterwards or something, it would probably be pretty hard to digest your lamb chop or whatever.
Why did it have to be a lamb chop?
I was trying to think of something hard to digest.
Do you think the gosling hatched?
Oh God, I thought you were keeping track of that.
I know. What am I doing?
Yeah. Okay, that got. We should probably read. We're gonna read.
Oh, my dad has things to say.
Oh, does he?
Of course. Dads, why didn't you just say this?
It's groups of neurons. I want to go to the Google.
Someone writing about neurons?
Yeah. Long-term memories are stored throughout the brain as groups of neurons.
Aren't there already groups of neurons there? This kind of shit that I do not understand. So you're saying if there was no memory there would be no neurons there? See? I don't know what I mean by see. I like the idea of being like see and using something for whatever your argument was, regardless of its relevance.
See
that? Yeah, that's what here's the, yeah. Oh, this is my motto. Everybody has things to say. And to just expand on your meal analogy, the sympathetic system is the space that you're like in when you're triggered and afraid and cornered and those kinds of things, the fight or flight thing. And your parasympathetic one of the shorthands that they call it in yoga and stuff is your rest and digest, because when you're in fight and flight, you are not digesting. Literally,
Yeah.
like you have to be able to calm down.
Don't you like empty your bowels actually?
A lot of times, yeah.
Yeah.
Oops.
Mhm.
So it's actually like really literally true that you can't digest if you're, what's it called?
Which also makes me think that anyway, that there's a way to modify learning that takes emotional intelligence and fight or flight into account.
True. I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of like,
I'm sure very smart people are working on this. But like honestly.
some of the people I met at Summit actually do
Mm.
work on like primary education and what the, I don't remember enough about like the intricacies of it to talk about now that I think about it. But yeah, I met this guy who'd opened like 30 or 40 schools in India, and the way that they were doing kindergarten or something was like unlike anything that else that was available, and blah blah blah. I also think it's really peculiar that our education system in general focuses on purely analytical learning with a side of like instead of French fries, you like have a PE class. Instead of a beverage, you like there's an orchestra, or you do a play. But the main thing, they're all analytical processes that you're learning, almost all of them. I guess some people have like shop class and home ec and stuff. I never had any of those things.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's such an
They definitely
outdated
don't.
concept, but
They definitely don't make up the bulk of it.
it's such an outdated concept, but I think I mean I think I would probably have learned more from home ec. No?
At least not mine. I remember we literally I remember one semester we learned interior design.
Okay, yeah, I've just
And we had to make a little model room with our interior design choices.
Are you serious?
Dead serious. We had to learn all about like color combinations.
That is physics, I just want to say. Maybe it's chemistry. I think it's physics.
Yeah. Anyway, I think you're fine with that.
That's stupid. That's not what I had in mind at all.
Right. You wanted more like how to make your husband happy, right?
When he's cranky.
Yeah, that's
when depending on all the different kinds of cranky that there are.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I didn't mean like the ultra gendered home economics, which maybe that doesn't exist. But like I meant practical life things.
Oh, it should be that.
Kind of helpful to know.
It should be taxes.
Taxes. Like that should be home ec, mortgages.
Yeah, actually.
If that's relevant to anyone.
Should be like how to get rid of spiders. How to fix a drain.
Yes. In my mind, home ec is like kind of like that. I think we should develop a course. I shouldn't say this in public. I think we should discuss this later.
Okay.
I have an idea.
Okay.
I bet no one can guess what it's about, considering when I had it and what we were just talking about. Cool.
Do you want to read?
We have to. Otherwise, what is our pretext for even being here?
That's true. Otherwise, we lied to you. And we cannot do that.
Did anything fucking happen? I think still nothing's really happened.
No, we met up with Nicholas,
Right.
who
Right.
was back in the army, and there was a battle, skirmish, maybe is a better word for it, and they captured some French dragoons.
He did. He captured
He
someone
did.
in particular.
He was like just called by the spirit, and the spirit said, "Do this," and he went and he did it.
But then it turns out it was an evil spirit because he immediately was like, "Wait,
Yeah.
why do I feel so weird in my stomach?"
There was a Frenchman that he hit with his saber. Not hard. It sounds like he kind of like.
No, but he knocked him over.
He knocked him
off.
That's true. That's true. And he was just this young Frenchman with a dimple in his chin
And
blue eyes. Yeah, he's gorgeous.
I mean, it's like he doesn't even belong in a war. Like what? He should be like spitting water into the air in the middle of a fountain.
Yeah.
Or peeing.
So he's like, that he's no different than I am. Is this all bravery? He said some sentence that I actually thought was quite good. It was like, is that all bravery is? Like,
it really impressed me.
Yeah, it really did. It was like just being like less afraid than the other person.
He's like, oh, a hero is just someone who's. Wait. Yeah, he was like, I guess that just means I was less scared than my enemy.
Yeah.
Which. Yeah. It's a race to the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
You were very impressed by it.
Yeah, that was good.
You were like, I think Nicholas is grown up.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know when that happened, but he's a man.
Well, it was definitely the emphasis. That was like what we were supposed to get in that passage.
You think?
It was like, now he has a protege. Now he's like comfortable. He's not scared by war. And he's like writing home to Sonia, this loving letter. It's like he has his priorities straight.
Except his family doesn't figure into the priorities. Yeah. I think that's all that happened. There was a lot of talk about the way they were set up and stuff, and what the best ways to get set up were. In that meeting with Fuel.
Yeah. Prince Andrew was
present.
Didn't he?
Did he even?
Oh, he had like an opportunity to join the emperor, and then he was so disgusted by everyone's discussion there that he asked to be placed like in the army.
Remind me what he was disgusted by?
I think it was like everyone thinking that there was a way to conduct war. And he was like, there's no way.
But
like,
not everyone thinks that. Remember, there are all these different camps?
Yeah. But Andrew was like, all these people are crazy to think that you can predict what's going to happen in war. The only people who have any real impact in what happens are the people like on the ground, the footmen on the ground. And that's why he asked to be put there.
I remember there being some other aspect to it, but I can't now recall. Because I had this experience when we were reading it of like, no kidding, you just realized this? But I don't think I would have reacted that way to so maybe I remember. We're at chapter 16. On receiving news of Natasha's illness, the Countess, though not quite well yet and still weak, went to Moscow with Petya and the rest of the household, and the whole family moved from Maria Dmitrievna's house to their own and settled down in town.
Natasha's illness was so serious that, fortunately for her and for her parents, the consideration of all that had caused the illness, her conduct, and the breaking off of her engagement, receded into the background. She was so ill that it was impossible for them to consider in how far she was to blame for what had happened. She could not eat or sleep, grew visibly thinner, coughed, and as the doctors made them feel, was in danger. They could not think of anything but how to help her. Doctors came to see her singly and in consultation, talked much better in French, German, and Latin, blamed one another, and prescribed a great variety of medicines for all the diseases known to them, But the simple idea never occurred to any of them that they could not know the disease Natasha was suffering from, as no disease suffered by a live man can be known.
What?
For every living person has his own peculiarities and
Oh my
always has his
God.
own peculiar, personal, novel, complicated disease, unknown to medicine.
Oh my God.
Not a disease of the lungs, liver, skin, heart, nerves, and so on mentioned in medical books, but a disease consisting of one of the innumerable combinations of the maladies of those organs. This simple thought could not occur to the doctors, as it cannot occur to a wizard that he is unable to work his charms, because the busyness of their lives was to cure, and they received money for it and had spent the best years of their lives on that business. But above all, that thought was kept out of their minds by the fact that they saw they were really useful, as in fact they were to the whole Rostov family. Their usefulness did not depend on making the patient swallow substances for the most part harmful. The harm was scarcely perceptible, as they were given in small doses. But they were useful, necessary, and indispensable because they satisfied a mental need of the invalid and those who loved her. And that is why they are, and always will be, pseudo-healers, wise women, homeopaths, and allopaths. They satisfied that eternal human need for hope of relief, for sympathy, and that something should be done, which is felt by those who are suffering. They satisfied the need seen in its most elementary form in a child when it wants to have a place rubbed that has been hurt. A child knocks itself and runs at once to the arms of its mother or nurse to have the aching spot rubbed or kissed, and it feels better when this is done. The child cannot believe that the strongest and wisest of its people have no remedy for its pain, and the hope of relief and the expression of its mother's sympathy while she rubs the bump comforts it. The doctors were of use to Natasha because they kissed and rubbed her bump, assuring her that it would soon pass if only the coachman went to the chemist's in the Arbat and got a powder and some pills in a pretty box for a ruble and 70 kopecks. And if she took those powders in boiled water at intervals of precisely 2 hours, neither more nor less.
Oh my God. I can't believe this guy. This is why he writes the way he does. Because there's no explaining anything.
There's no way to write either.
Like there's no. This is why he writes in the way that has been so fucking completely confusing to me.
Mm.
Of course, he isn't doing that much explaining because everything is inexplicable, which I think you might have said like close to the end of the thing last night, and seems confirmed by this. Also, it's almost like he got cranky halfway through the book and was like, "I'm going to start." Just like putting my random theories about the world in.
That would be really right. Yeah.
He was like,
It's time for them to know what I think.
I know.
Yeah.
Like book 9 apparently is when when Tolstoy is revealed to us in all his utterly unique glory.
But some people love this. Like, yes.
Love. I partly do love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like it's so unusual, and counter to what we believe. It's like the opposite of what we believe about doctors and medicine and science, for the most part. And so there's a part of me that loves that.
I guess I'm giving you a little bit of a benefit of the doubt because I don't, like at that time, maybe that is true because of what the doctors actually were offering. Wait. What?
I wonder if we've gotten that much better at it in this period of time than in the hundreds of years preceding it.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how much.
Didn't they not know like there was no germs?
Yeah, but like we probably don't know shit either.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know how much of who knows how much of an advancement that was. We tend to see history as being like really linear in this way that's like as if it's a progress ticker. As if time is a progress ticker.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I just find that to be a very difficult.
I don't think we're perfect. I think we've definitely made huge medical advances.
Sure. I don't think it's likely the doctors were know-nothings in Tolstoy's day, and that that's the reason he held any of these beliefs.
Okay.
What would Sonia and the Count and Countess have done? How would they have looked if nothing had been done? If there had not been those pills to give by the clock, the warm drinks, the chicken cutlets, and all the other details of life ordered by the doctors, the carrying out of which supplied an occupation and consolation to the family circle. How would the Count have borne his dearly loved daughter's illness had he not known that it was costing him 1,000 rubles, and that he would not grudge thousands more to benefit her? Or had he not known that if her illness continued, he would not grudge yet other thousands and would take her abroad for consultations there? And had he not been able to explain the details of how Metivier and Feller had not understood the symptoms, but Fries had, and Mudrov had diagnosed them even better? What would the Countess have done had she not been able sometimes to scold the invalid for not strictly obeying the doctor's orders?
You'll never get well like that, she would say, forgetting her grief and her vexation. If you won't obey the doctor and take your medicine at the right time, you mustn't trifle with it, or it may turn to pneumonia. She would go on, deriving much comfort from the utterance of that foreign word, incomprehensible to others as well as to herself.
What would Sonia have done without the glad consciousness that she had not undressed during the first 3 nights in order to be ready to carry out all the doctor's injunctions with precision, and that she still kept awake at night so as not to miss the proper time when the slightly harmful pills in the little gilt box had to be administered? Even to Natasha herself, it was pleasant to see that so many sacrifices were being made for her sake, and to know that she had to take medicine at certain hours, though she declared that no medicine would cure her and that it was all nonsense. And it was even pleasant to be able to show, by disregarding the orders, that she did not believe in medical treatment and did not value her life.
The doctor came every day, felt her pulse, looked at her tongue, and regardless of her grief-stricken face, joked with her. But when he had gone into another room, to which the Countess hurriedly followed him, he assumed a grave air and, thoughtfully shaking his head, said that though there was danger, he had hopes of the effect of this last medicine, and one must wait and see, that the malady was chiefly mental, but... And the Countess, trying to conceal the action from herself and from him, slipped a gold coin into his hand and always returned to the patient with a more tranquil mind.
The symptoms of Natasha's illness were that she ate little, slept little, coughed, and was always low-spirited. The doctors said that she could not get on without medical treatment, so they kept her in the stifling atmosphere of the town, and the Rostovs did not move to the country that summer of 1812.
In spite of the many pills she swallowed and the drops and powders out of the little bottles and boxes of which Madame Schoss, who was fond of such things, made a large collection, and in spite of being deprived of the country life to which she was accustomed, youth prevailed. Natasha's grief began to be overlaid by the impressions of daily life. It ceased to press so painfully on her heart. It gradually faded into the past, and she began to recover physically.
Chapter 17. Natasha was calmer, but no happier. She not merely avoided all external forms of pleasure, balls, promenades, concerts, and theaters, but she never laughed without the sound of tears in her laughter. She could not sing. As soon as she began to laugh or tried to sing by herself, tears choked her. Tears of remorse, tears of the recollection of those pure times which could never return, tears of vexation that she should so uselessly have ruined her young life, which might have been so happy. Laughter and singing in particular seemed to her like a blasphemy in face of her sorrow. Without any need of self-restraint, no wish to coquette ever entered her head. She said and felt at that time that no man was more to her than Nastasia Ivanovna, the buffoon. Something stood sentinel within her and forbade her every joy. Besides, she had lost all the old interests of the carefree girlish life that had been so full of hope. The previous autumn, the hunting, uncle and the Christmas holidays, what?
The previous autumn, the hunting, uncle, and the Christmas holidays spent with Nicholas at Otradno.
Jesus.
Yeah.
And the Christmas holidays spent with Nicholas at Otradno were what she recalled oftenest and most painfully. What would she not have given to bring back even a single day of that time? But it was gone forever. Her presentiment at the time had not deceived her, that state of freedom and readiness for any enjoyment would not return again. Yet it was necessary to live on.
comforted her to reflect that she was not better as she had formerly imagined, but worse, much worse, than anybody else in the world. This was not enough. She knew that and asked herself, what next? But there was nothing to come. There was no joy in life, yet life was passing. Natasha apparently tried not to be a burden or hindrance to anyone, but wanted nothing for herself. She kept away from everyone in the house and felt at ease only with her brother Petya. She liked to be with him better than with the others, and when alone with him, she sometimes laughed. She hardly ever left the house, and of those who came to see them was glad to see only one person, Pierre. It would have been impossible to treat her with more delicacy, greater care, and at the same time more seriously than did Count Bezhukov. Natasha unconsciously felt this delicacy and so found great pleasure in his society. But she was not even grateful to him for it. Nothing good on Pierre's part seemed to her to be an effort. It seemed so natural for him to be kind to everyone that there was no merit in his kindness. Sometimes Natasha noticed embarrassment and awkwardness on his part in her presence, especially when he wanted to do something to please her, or feared that something they spoke of would awaken memories distressing to her. She noticed this and attributed it to his general kindness and shyness, which she imagined must be the same toward everyone as it was to her. After those involuntary words, that if he were free, he would have asked on his knees for her hand and her love, uttered at a moment when she was so strongly agitated, Pierre never spoke to Natasha of his feelings, and it seemed plain to her that those words, which had then so comforted her, were spoken as all sorts of meaningless words are spoken to comfort a crying child. It was not because Pierre was a married man, but because Natasha felt very strongly with him that moral barrier, the absence of which she had experienced with Kuragin, that it never entered her head that the relations between him and herself could lead to love on her part, still less on his, or even to the kind of tender, self-conscious, romantic friendship between a man and a woman of which she had known several instances.
Before the end of the fast of St. Peter, Agrafena Ivanovna Belova, a country neighbor of the Rostovs, came to Moscow to pay her devotions at the shrines of the Moscow saints. She suggested that Natasha should fast and prepare for Holy Communion, and Natasha gladly welcomed the idea. Despite the doctor's orders that she should not go out early in the morning, Natasha insisted on fasting and preparing for the sacrament, not as they generally prepared for it in the Rostov family by attending 3 services in their own house, but as Agrafena Ivanovna did, by going to church every day for a week and not once missing vespers, matins, or how would you say that?
Mass?
No, not mass.
Oh, matin?
Yeah, is there a? I wonder if it's anglified for
Yeah, I'm not sure.
as being a church word. No. Or a mass.
The Countess was pleased with Natasha's zeal. After the poor results of the medical treatment, in the depths of her heart, she hoped that prayer might help her daughter, more than medicines, and, though not without fear in concealing it from the doctor, she agreed to Natasha's wish and entrusted her to Belova. Agrafena Ivanovna used to come to wake Natasha at 3 in the morning, but generally found her already awake. She was afraid of being late for matin. I guess that's what it is. Hastily washing and meekly putting on her shabbiest dress and an old mantilla, Natasha, shivering in the fresh air, went out into the deserted streets lit by the clear light of dawn. By Agrafena Ivanovna's advice, Natasha prepared herself not in their own parish, but at a church where, according to the devout Agrafena Ivanovna, the priest was a man of very severe and lofty life. There were never many people in the church. Natasha always stood beside Belova in the customary place before an icon of the Blessed Virgin, let into the screen before the choir on the left side, and a feeling new to her of humility before something great and incomprehensible seized her when at that unusual morning hour, gazing at the dark face of the Virgin illuminated by the candles burning before it, and by the morning light falling from the window, she listened to the words of the service which she tried to follow. Simply asked God to forgive her everything, to have mercy upon her. The prayers to which she surrendered herself most of all were those of repentance. On her way home at an early hour, when she met no one but bricklayers going to work or men sweeping the street, and everybody within the houses was still asleep, Natasha experienced a feeling new to her, a sense of the possibility of correcting her faults, the possibility of a new, clean life, and of happiness.
During the whole week she spent in this way, that feeling grew every day. and the happiness of taking communion, or communing, as Agrafena Ivanovna, joyously playing with the word, called it, seemed to Natasha so great that she felt she should never live till that blessed Sunday.
But the happy day came, and on that memorable Sunday when, dressed in white muslin, she returned home after communion, for the first time for many months, she felt calm and not oppressed by the thought of the life that lay before her.
The doctor who came to see her that day ordered her to continue the powders he had prescribed a fortnight previously.
She must certainly go on taking them morning and evening, said he, evidently sincerely satisfied with his success. Only please be particular about it.
Be quite easy, he continued playfully as he adroitly took the gold coin in his palm. She will soon be singing and frolicking about. The lost medicine has done her a very great deal of good. She has freshened up very much.
The Countess, with a cheerful expression on her face, looked down at her nails and spat a little for luck as she returned to the drawing room.
Chapter 18.
Is that a thing?
I guess so. I guess. At the beginning of July, more and more disquieting reports about the war began to spread in Moscow. People spoke of an appeal by the emperor to the people of his coming himself from the army to Moscow, and as up to the 11th of July, no manifesto or appeal had been received, exaggerated reports became current about them and about the position of Russia. It was said that the emperor was leaving the army because it was in danger. It was said that Smolensk had surrendered, that Napoleon had an army of 1 million, and only a miracle could save Russia.
On the 11th of July, which was Saturday, the manifesto was received, but was not yet in print, and Pierre, who was at the Rostovs, promised to come to dinner next day, Sunday, and bring a copy of the manifesto and appeal, which he would obtain from Count Rostopchin.
That Sunday, the Rostovs went to Mass at the Razumovsky's private chapel as usual. It was a hot July day. Even at 10 o'clock, when the Rostovs got out of their carriage at the chapel, the sultry air, the shouts of hawkers, the light and gay summer clothes of the crowd, the dusty leaves of the trees on the boulevard, the sounds of the band, and the white trousers of a battalion marching to parade, the rattling of wheels on the cobblestones, and the brilliant, hot sunshine were all full of that summer languor, that that content and discontent with the present, which is most strongly felt on a bright, hot day in town. All the Moscow notabilities, all the Rostov's acquaintances were at the Razumovsky's chapel for, as if expecting something to happen, many wealthy families who usually left town for their country estates had not gone away that summer. As Natasha, at her mother's side, passed through the crowd behind a liveried footman who cleared the way for them, she heard a young man speaking about her in too loud a whisper.
That Rostova, the one who...
She's much thinner, but all the same she's pretty.
She heard, or thought she heard, the names of Kurgan and Bolkonsky, but she was always imagining that. It always seemed to her that everyone who looked at her was thinking only of what had happened to her. With a sinking heart, wretched as she always was now when she found herself in a crowd, Natasha, in her lilac silk dress trimmed with black lace, walked, as women can walk, with the more repose and stateliness, the greater the pain and shame in her soul. She knew for certain that she was pretty, but this no longer gave her satisfaction as it used to. On the contrary, it tormented her more than anything else of late, and particularly so on this bright, hot summer day in town. It's Sunday again, another week passed, she thought, recalling that she had been here the Sunday before. And always the same life that is no life, and the same surroundings in which it used to be so easy to live. I'm pretty, I'm young, and I know that now I am good. I used to be bad, but now I know I am good, she thought. But yet my best years are slipping by and are no good to anyone. She stood by her mother's side and exchanged nods with acquaintances near her. From habit, she scrutinized the ladies' dresses, condemned the bearing of a lady standing close by who was not crossing herself properly, but in a cramped manner, and again she thought with vexation that she was herself being judged, and was judging others, and suddenly, at the sound of the service, she felt horrified at her own vileness, horrified that the former purity of her soul was again lost to her.
A comely fresh-looking old man was conducting the service with that mild solemnity which has so elevating and soothing an effect on the souls of the worshippers. The gates of the sanctuary screen were closed, The curtain was slowly drawn, and from behind it a soft, mysterious voice pronounced some words. Tears, the cause of which she herself did not understand, made Natasha's breast heave, and a joyous but oppressive feeling agitated her.
Teach me what I should do, how to live my life, how I may grow good forever, forever, she pleaded.
The deacon came out onto the raised space before the altar screen and, holding his thumb extended, drew his long hair from under his dalmatic and, making the sign of the cross on his breast, began in a loud and solemn voice to recite the words of the prayer.
In peace, let us pray unto the Lord.
As one community without distinction of class, without enmity, united by brotherly love, let us pray, thought Natasha.
For the peace that is from above and for the salvation of our souls.
For the world of angels and all the spirits who dwell above us, prayed Natasha.
When they prayed for the warriors, she thought of her brother, Denisov. When they prayed for all traveling by land and sea, she remembered Prince Andrew, prayed for him, and asked God to forgive her all the wrong she had done him. When they prayed for those who love us, she prayed for the members of her own family, her father and mother and Sonia, realizing for the first time how wrongly she had acted toward them, and feeling all the strength of her love for them. When they prayed for those who hate us, she tried to think of her enemies and people who hated her, in order to pray for them. She included among her enemies the creditors and all who had business dealings with her father. And always at the thought of enemies and those who hated her, she remembered Anatole, who had done her so much harm. And though he did not hate her, she gladly prayed for him as for an enemy. Only at prayer did she feel able to think clearly and calmly of Prince Andrew and Anatole, as men whom her feelings were as nothing compared with her awe and devotion to God. When they prayed for the imperial family and the synod, she bowed very low and made the sign of the cross, saying to herself that even if she did not understand, still she could not doubt, and at any rate loved the governing synod and prayed for it.
When he had finished the litany, the deacon crossed the stole over his breast and said, "Let us commit ourselves and our whole lives to Christ the Lord."
Commit ourselves to God, Natasha inwardly repeated. Lord God, I submit myself to thy will, she thought. I want nothing, wish for nothing. Teach me what to do and how to use my will. Take me, prayed Natasha, with impatient emotion in her heart, not crossing herself, but letting her slender arms hang down as if expecting some invisible power at any moment to take her and deliver her from herself, from her regrets, desires, remorse, hopes, and sins.
The countess looked round several times at her daughter's softened face and shining eyes and prayed God to help her.
Unexpectedly, in the middle of the service, and not in the usual order Natasha knew so well, the deacon brought out a small stool, the one he knelt on when praying on Trinity Sunday, and placed it before the doors of the sanctuary screen. The priest came out with his purple velvet beretta on his head, adjusted his hair, and knelt down with an effort. Everybody followed his example, and they looked at one another in surprise. Then came the prayer just received from the synod, a prayer from the deliverance for the deliverance of Russia from hostile invasion.
Lord God of might, God of our salvation, began the priest in that voice clear, not grandiloquent, but mild, in which only the Slav clergy read, and which acts so irresistibly on a Russian heart.
Lord God of our might, Lord God of might, God of our salvation, look this day in mercy and blessing on thy humble people, and graciously hear us, spare us, and have mercy upon us. This foe confounding thy land, desiring to lay waste to the whole world, rises against us. These lawless men are gathered together to overthrow thy kingdom, to destroy thy dear Jerusalem, thy beloved Russia, to defile thy temples, to overthrow thine altars, and to desecrate our holy shrines. How long, O Lord, how long shall the wicked triumph? How long shall they wield unlawful power?
Lord God, hear us when we pray to thee. Strengthen with thy might our most gracious sovereign Lord, the Emperor Alexander Pavlovich. Be mindful of his uprightness and meekness. Reward him according to his righteousness, and let it preserve us, thy chosen Israel. Bless his counsels, his undertakings, and his work. Strengthen his kingdom by thine almighty hand, and give him victory over his enemy, even as thou gavest Moses the victory over Amalek. Gideon over Midian. And David over Goliath. Preserve his army, put a bow of brass in his hands, in the hands of those who have armed themselves in thy name, and gird their loins with strength for the fight. Take up the spear and shield, and arise to help us. Confound and put to shame those who have devised evil against us. May they be before the faces of thy faithful warriors as dust before the wind, and may thy mighty angel confound them and put them to flight. May they be ensnared when they know it not, and may the plots they have laid in secret be turned against them. Let them fall before thy servants' feet and be laid low by our hosts. Lord, thou art able to save both great and small. Thou art God, and man cannot prevail against thee.
God of our fathers, remember thy bounteous mercy and loving kindness, which are from of old. Turn not thy face from us, but be gracious to our unworthiness, and in thy great goodness and thy many mercies regard not our transgressions and iniquities. Create in us a clean heart and renew a right spirit within us. Strengthen us all in thy faith. Fortify our hope. Inspire us with true love one for another. Arm us with unity of spirit in the righteous defense of the heritage thou gavest to us and to our fathers. And let not the scepter of the wicked be exalted against the destiny of those thou hast sanctified.
O Lord our God, in whom we believe, and in whom we put our trust, let us not be confounded in our hope of thy mercy, and give us a token of thy blessing, that those who hate us and our orthodox faith may see it and be put to shame and perish, and may all the nations know that thou art the Lord, and we are thy people. Show thy mercy upon us this day, O Lord, and grant us thy salvation. Make the hearts of thy servants to rejoice in thy mercy. Smite down our enemies and destroy them swiftly beneath the feet of thy faithful servants. For thou art the defense, the succor, and the victory of them that put their trust in thee. And to thee be all glory, to Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, now and forever, world without end. Amen.
In Natasha's receptive condition of soul, this prayer affected her strongly.
That's the end of your thing?
Oh, yeah. I'll keep going. She listened to every word about the victory of Moses over Amalek. Is that the Pharaoh?
I have no idea who that is.
Okay. Of Gideon over Midian, and of David over Goliath, and about the destruction of thy Jerusalem. And she prayed to God with a tenderness and emotion with which her heart was overflowing, but without fully understanding what she was asking of God in that prayer. She shared with all her heart in the prayer for the spirit of righteousness, for the strengthening of the heart by faith and hope, and its animation by love.
She could not pray that her enemies might be trampled underfoot when, but a few minutes before, she had been wishing she had more of them, that she might pray for them. But neither could she doubt the righteousness of the prayer that was being read on bended knees. She felt in her heart a devout and tremulous awe at the thought of the punishment that overtakes men for their sins, and especially of her own sins. And she prayed to God to forgive them all, and her too, and to give them all, and her too, peace and happiness. And it seemed to her that God heard her prayer. That's cute. I have to do work, unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay.
So we have to stop. So it's a short one.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay.
Hopefully we can start a bit earlier tomorrow. I feel like it's getting later and later.
Yeah. Let's do that.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.